Okay. Welcome to Edu Blush. Today, I'm Vincent Yenika, your presenter for accounting. With 10, we're going to look at general journal transactions, the various transactions that should be recorded in the general journal. We start with transaction number 1. Says we are charging J-Tom a debtor with an interest of 8% per annum. Very important here is per annum on his overdue account. So the first thing we have to do, we have to first calculate the interest. So it's 9,200, okay, times 8%. Now they said per annum. We don't just use the 3 months. We are not just going to use the 3 months. We convert it to per annum. That's 3 out of 12 months. So it gives us 184. So in general, now we have to identify the two accounts concerned. J-Ton and interest on overdue account or interest income. J-Tom is a debtor, is owing us more, so we are going to debit him, account debited J-Tom, the account credited interest income. But since J-Tom is a debtor, we must remember that in our general journal always also have a debtor control column and a creditors control column. So since it's a debtor, we are going also to the debtors control column, exactly the same line where J-Tom is, and we also debit it with 184, which will be like our journal debit. Okay, now we go now to the second slide. Interest paid on overdue account. King supplier, a creditor, charge ABC trader. So King supplier is charging ABC traders. We are ABC traders. 10% interest per annum. Per annum here is very important. Why? Because it's for 4 months. It's not for the whole year at this amount. So we come to the amount now, 8,400. The 10% multiplied by 10%, 4 months, this is the 4 months. And per annum, it was per annum, so it's 4 months out of 12 months, give us 280. What are the two accounts concerned there? Interest, expense. They are charging us interest. Expense increase on the debit side, so we are going to debit the interest expense account, and we are going to credit King suppliers, which are our creditor. And since he's a creditor, so the creditors control column on the general journal will also be credited with this amount of 280. Our next transaction we are going to look at, transaction number 3. The owner takes good for his own personal use. So the owner takes good with the selling price of this for his own personal use. So what is very, very important here? The owner cannot sell to himself. Okay, he's using this markup. So we have to record it at what? At the cost price. So we are going to say the 600 we multiply. So we have to look for the cost price, which is the unknown, 100 divided by the known, which is 150. So this is going to give us, take your calculator, 600 times 100 400 frame. That give us 400 rand. Okay. 100 here. Not writing. Hundred. 100 rand. That give us 400 rand. 400. Okay. So this 400 rand is what we are going to debit our drain account with, and we credit our trading stock. And note that this will not affect the debtor or creditors column because we are not a debtor or creditors to ourselves. Now we look at a discount on dishonored check. Okay. For the transactions that we've done, I'm going to show you how it is being recorded in the journals before we continue. So we see the one for J. Thompson is a set. We see J. Thompson, debit J. Thompson, credit interest income. So you see the debtors control column is also debited on the same line. Now, you have to see when I talk of the debtors control column, I mean this column. When it concerns a debtor, I will debit the debtor. When it concerns a creditor, if it's debit the creditor, I debit here. If it's to debit the creditor, I debit here. If it's to credit, I credit here. Okay. Okay, we continue with transaction number 4. The bank returned a check of 1,200, which was received from K. Abel marked RD insufficient for RD check, means that actually the bank have said they are not able to pay that check. Maybe he doesn't have money in the account. Maybe it was incorrectly signed. So the check was in settlement of 1,250. This check has already been cancelled in the CPJ, which means 1,200 cancel the CPJ, cancel the discount. So we debit Abel to reinstall his debt with a to reinstall the discount allowed with 50 rand, and we credit the discount allowed column 50 rand because he was owing 1,250 but paid 1,200 to cancel off his debt. Now it can't work. So we have to reinstate back his 1,250. 1,200 cancelled in the CPJ because it was recorded in the CRJ. So cancel it in the CPJ. And now the 50 rand now will be recorded in the general journal. And since he was a debtor, we are also going to record it in the debtors column in his debt. So we are going to make sure that we record it in the debtors column. See that? So we'll look at that later. Now we'll go to transaction number 5. Donate stationery, amount of 450 to a local creche. So this is donation of a consumable. Consumables, remember, a consumable, when we do a balance sheet, you see that a consumable is like an asset to us, okay? Consumable is like an asset to us. So this is a consumable. What do? We are giving it out. So actually we are basically reducing our asset, and donation is an expense. So we debit donation and we credit the stationery that is going out. They are not a debtor or a creditor, so we don't touch the debtors control or the creditors column. Number 6, Archer was declared insolvent. His outstanding balance of 2,000 rand. So what do we receive? We receive a final dividend of 35 cents in a rand. We receive 35%. Okay. Then the balance must be written off. What is the balance? We receive 35%. Our bad debt there is 65%. So we calculate 65% of his total debt, which is 1,300. So we are going to debit the bad debt and credit J. Archer since it's a debtor that will never see him again. So credit him to cancel him off from our books. So we also go to the debtors control column, and then we do what? We debit. We credit the debtors control column, so that we call that the journal credit. So it's going to reduce the debtor control account. Remember, the debtor control account is a summary of every transaction that occurs in the individual debtors ledger. Next, an amount of 14,400 was received from ERR Bank for the following: repayment of fixed deposit, which matured 13,000, interest days. However, the full amount, you see, the full amount credited against fixed deposit. No, it was not supposed to credit against fixed deposit, not the full amount, because this is an interest and this is the fixed deposit. So what do? We have to take out back this interest from the fixed deposit. Since the fixed deposit was credited, we have to go and debit the fixed deposit account. It was not supposed to be there. And then we credit the right account, which is the interest on fixed deposit. So account debited, fixed deposit, account credited, interest on fixed deposit. The broken windows of the building were replaced at a cost of 6,500. The bookkeeper entered the amount in land and building. No. So it was entered. The amount of entered in land and building. So remember, land and building is an asset. Repairs is an expense. So instead of recording as an expense, they're recording under land and building as if they are increasing part of the building. No, they're just repairing it. So what are we going to do? We have to debit the repair account. It's an expense account. Expense was the one that was actually increasing. And then we credit back the land and building, which was mistakenly debited, to reduce back the value of that asset. Transaction number 9, good bought on credit from XY supplier. XY supplier of 870 had been mistakenly entered to XY. You see, this XY confuses the person. He just saw XY, he didn't look that it's a wholesaler and not XY supplier. So we have to correct this error. So we are buying on credit from this person. So we were supposed to credit the XY supplier. They will mistakenly credited XY wholesaler. So what do? We go back and correct the error by debiting XY wholesaler because he was not the creditor. And also debit the creditors control column. And then we go now and credit the right person, XY supplier, the right creditor, because he is the right person. And we credit also the creditors control column. Next, a creditor, man transport, charged overdue account of 400 with overdue account of business with 400 interest. The bookkeeper entered this in the books on the issue of the journal. So how are we going to do this? It was entered on the issue of the journal voucher. So the voucher now have to be transfer to the relevant general journal or to the journal concern. Now we see that this is interest that they are charging us to pay. So we debit interest expense increase on the debit side. I will credit M man. We try to credit man. He is a creditor, so you also credit the creditor's control column in the general journal. Correction of wrong entries again. Goods sold on credit for this as it was on the invoice. In invoice, this invoice 445 is the invoice number, not the amount. To L Lion was charged to this L Lion. So you see, this lion is with the I, this lion is with the Y. So actually, you see, they are different people. But are they creditors or debtors? Look at the word goods sold. Sold means they are our debtor, that one owing us on credit. So we are supposed to debit L Lion. So we go and debit L Lion, which was a real account that was supposed to be debited. And it's a debtor, also debit the debtor's control column. And then we go and credit this L Leon because it was an account we made a mistake on. We're not supposed to debit him. We credit back to cancel the transaction. And so since he was also a debtor, we go and credit the debtor's control column in the general journal. Okay. Transaction number 12, good return recorded wrongly. Good return, we are the one returning. Good return to AB traders. So we see here. And recorded in the creditor balance, return to AB. Yeah, we are AB traders. So return to us and recorded in the creditor allowance journal for 400 Rand was incorrectly debited against the account of AB wholesaler. Okay, yeah, we will return it to AB traders. We return to AB traders and recorded in the creditors allowance journal for this was incorrectly debited to this. You see, AB confuses us again. So I was supposed to debit bet AB traders because that's the creditor that I return go to. So I debit AB traders and also debit the creditors control column because it's a creditor. And then the mistake I did was touching the AB wholesalers account. I go and credit it back because when return goods, we normally debit. So we mistakenly debited him before. So go and credit AB wholesalers and also credit the creditors control column. Number 13, the total of the wage column of the CPJ for 2,500 was incorrectly posted to the salary account. No, not salary. There's a difference between wage and salary. So now, what do we do? First, let me explain you the difference between wage. We know that a wage is normally paid to someone who works like piece job, that they pay hourly. Only wages are received weekly or fortnightly. The salary is fixed amount that the person receives monthly. Okay, so they were supposed to debit by the wages account. So we debit the wages and go and credit the salary account. So now, how do you know if they actually what happened to the salary account? Because it's a paid, it's an expense. Okay, the total of this total wage is an expense. So we always debit an expense. So the expense that was supposed to be debited was wages, but it means that we mistakenly went and debited salaries account. So we have to debit the right account, wages, and go and credit back the salary account. That's correction of wrong entry. Number 14, the cost of delivery goods to AB traders was entered in the delivery charges account of this. The cost of delivery goods to ABC traders to us was entered to delivery charges account. So when they are delivering goods to us, it's part of the whole expense of us buying that good. So it increases the value of the trading stock we are buying. So we're supposed to debit by the trading stock account and then we do what? the wrong account that was debited delivery charges, we go and credit it back to correct the errors. A check of 800 was issued for tires for delivery van. The amount was posted to vehicle account. No, this is an expense. If you post it to the vehicle account, an expense is normally recorded on the debit side, which means we have mistakenly debited the vehicle account, increasing the value of the asset. No, it's a motor vehicle expense. So we have to debit the motor vehicle account and go and correct the error by crediting back the vehicle account. So if you can see, the general journal also is used for correction of errors also, because there's no journal called correction of errors journal. Okay, so we try to use to correct our errors. So we go now through the answers so that you all know the format of the general journal. So this is how our answer look like. For you learners, you can scroll through the answers, everything right up to the last transaction. You can scroll through all of them, and then you look at the memo and you mark yourself. Thank you for having attended to us, and I hope that next time we're gonna see you again. Bye.